his first few specific ones, and then we'll do some hand quizzes and see how we do. So, first hand we get 6-5, we get folded 2. We're doing pretty well in this tournament. It is very early, but we're kind of stacked up. So we make a standard open 2.1, and the big blind raises. This raise isn't really enough. There was an exact situation like this where I had the same hand going and I made a much larger raise. One, because we're out of position, and two, because it just looks too suspicious, right? And when I have a hand like 6-5 off or 6-5 suited, let's give you credit for like the top of the deck, aces, kings, queens, ace, king. I kind of want to play against those hands because when I improve, you won't, and I'll just have a cracker on my hand. So we go to the flop and we flop the absolute joint. Why are we reviewing this hand? Because it's about getting all the money in. He still has 25 blinds behind. There's 13 in the pot, and we kind of have to let him go for it. And you can see, oh, hang on, screwed up, no camera. Hang on, where's the zoom thing? I'm retarded. Work. Okay. Really? Zoom cam? There we go. Alright. Let's get that fixed and get me in here. Hang on. Alright. And lock that out. Sorry, guys. Alright. Lost my place. So we make a raise. We see a poor 3-bet from the big blind. It should be much larger, even if you're trapping. But when he makes this small bet, we're obviously priced in. Flop comes off with the nuts, and we want to get all the chips in the pot. Player bets 5 big blinds. A third pot bet here would be a little bit smaller than this. If I was going standard third pot, I would probably go 4 or 4.5. 5 is that thing of he wants to put a little extra on it. He should have put the extra on it pre-flop. Like if he makes it, you know, let's realistically look at it here. If I make it 2.1, if he pots it, then that's or 2.2. That's 2.2 plus 2.2, 4. It's like 5, 6 plus that bet. If he pots it, it's about 8. And if he makes it 8, I don't know if I call, man, because that is kind of really now a significant portion of my stack. But when all I have to do is call, you know, that much, I'm getting 28% to 1, or 28% equity. That's all I need. And having 6-5 suited, I absolutely have that. So this is where the hand really went bad for him, because he let me flop this, and I don't think I flop it for 8 big blinds, which is a standard 3-bet from the big blind out of position. He bets 5, and there's a world in which we can jam and just get paid here, but in that world he has to be exactly trapping. Some players are playing aces and kings this way. Some players are playing ace-king this way. He could even have a hand as weak as like a pair of 7s and make that crappy bet and try to like make his stack play like more, because he's shorter stacked. He wants to be able to put more bets out there, you know what I'm saying, to kind of make it look stronger. So I don't think jamming is the best way to get the last 20 blinds in the pot in most scenarios. In this one exactly, it may have been, but we go ahead and just call, obviously. King comes on the turn. This is usually great for us because he's going to have a lot of ace-kings, king-queens, things like that. He checks back, or he checks, and we decide just to check back. Because here's the thing. Either he's thinking this king now helped us and we're going to bet, or he thinks that the king killed his action, and if he bets, we'll fold. So if we have something like a pair of 9s or something like that, this card can be scary for us, so, and good for him. So him checking back tells me his hand is exactly what it is. It's one pair. It doesn't really matter what the pair is, obviously, because he has no outs, but it's usually pocket aces in his hand or ace-king. It can be queens sometimes, and he's maybe a little scared of the king, but I think with no 4-bet free flop from me, I think he can only ever have one pair and not really be afraid about losing. So when he checks, we just check back, and we know we're going to get the money in on the river. He bets now small. This is kind of the, in relation to the pot, it's small. It's less than a third. But at the same time, he's committed to the pot because of how little he has. And you can see in the video playback, which I'm going to make something so you guys can see that side by side with this. When I jam, it takes him a few minutes or a few seconds to call. Like, it's not even like 3 seconds. It's like 8. Like, he's sitting there going, "Fuck, I might actually be beat now," and he was beat the whole way. But I think at this point, he realized he couldn't fold. And while he wanted me to jam, when I did, I don't think he realized how bad it is for him. Like, in a situation like this, if you have ace king and you bet like this and the guy jams on you, do you think you're ever good? Not really. So if you have aces, they're better a few more times, but mostly you're going to just be up against the set. And he reluctantly called, and he had right where we thought he was. He was playing aces like they were jokers, and that's how you get the most value, man. You got to let the guy hang himself. And it was being aware of his stack size throughout the hand that really made it so we got it all, because we didn't want to give him a chance to fold at any point in the hand where he still could fold and be okay in the tournament. And this one, put us right up in the. I think this gave us the top 3 spot very early in the tournament, and it kind of took us on. Hey, what's up, Fish Jams? How you doing, my man? So interesting hand there. Let's go on to the next one. A lot of fun hands from yesterday. Ace Queen in the small blind. This player, we're kind of close in chips, and this player had been not really that active, kind of solid. So I decided not to 3-bet it. I mean, if somebody else had called, I definitely would have 3-bet, but it's okay to play the Ace Queen out of position. But versus a player in early position with a solid opening range, I think it's smarter just sometimes to just try to improve. That's not so much gambling as it is, not overplaying my hand. We're going to have to see a flop sometimes with this hand. And out of position is a perfect opportunity because we also under-rep our hand. So it's very unlikely we have ace-queen when there is no 3-bet. Now, with nobody else calling, I think it's very reasonable to do this a fair portion of the time. Something like, I think I'm doing this like 35-40% of the time rather than 3-betting. It might even be higher. I have to go back and look, but... So the big blind folds, so we're just heads up, which is great. We get just about the gin flop for us, and with 5.5 big blinds in the pot and a player who has only 20 big blinds, it looks like a big SPR, stack to pot ratio. It's really not, though, because he's going to make a bet, and then he's not going to have much left, and then the pot's going to grow. Like, even if he just bets 3 here, right? And, we'll just see what he bet. Let's go to that. So he bets 1.9, which is a super under bet, right? That bet tells me one of two things. Either it's one of those, if you don't have anything, you can't call, or I have the world. What world does he have here? You know what I'm saying? Overpairs, I guess. But even a guy with aces or kings, at this spy-in level, they're not going to be playing to get all the money in, even with 20 big blinds. Like, if we get all the money in on the flop and you have aces here, this is the kind of spot where players at lower levels will fold aces because they're like, oh, this guy's got a set or something like that. Or they'll just always put you on a draw. So his small bet, I think this is one of those outdated tester bets that I talk about where it's not useful to find out where you're at in a hand by betting, because this gives you no information. If you don't know where you're at, you shouldn't be betting at all. Just check. So I check raise. Now, from his perspective, the hands I'm going to be check raising are 10 jack, the obvious draw, maybe a queen, maybe an ace 9, things like that. But it's going to be very interesting here, his response. So he does call. Now remember, he bets super micro, which when bad players do this, or inexperienced players do this, they think, I'll bet super small with this good hand, and it'll entice this guy to bluff at me. Well, that's also the problem with varying your bet size based on your hand strength, is you're getting different reactions from different people, and you're putting too many different actions in. If you always bet standard on the same scenarios, like if he had bet just a regular third pot bet, I kind of don't know if he has aces or kings or ace king or 10s or 5s or 9s. I kind of don't know. I kind of have to just call with my good hands or decide that they're good enough to get him all in. Now, from our perspective, now that he's called our bet, there's going to be 15 in the pot. It's going to be a 1-to-1 stack to pot ratio. So we're never folding top pair, top kicker here. And from our perspective, the point of raising on this flop was to get him committed. So that's why the bet is what it is. Like, A standard re-raise here would have been much bigger. Like it would have been like 7 or 8 blinds because of the stack to the pot ratio, or because of the size of the pot. But because he has so few chips, it doesn't take much to commit him to the pot. Like this is one where he's going to make a call, and now he realizes, well, shit, I only have 1-to-1 to the pot. You know, he's going to realize that after we make the bet. So I think check raising on this flop is perfectly reasonable. What do we expect to get called by? All draws and pairs that are under a queen. If we get jammed on here, I think we can actually fold, because when he bets small and then we raise it and then he jams us, he has a hand that he likes. That's usually aces or kings. When we get the call here, it's like he wants to see what's going to happen, but his hand is, in his mind, too good to fold. So I zeroed in on it in the video, and said he could have 10 jacks or a pair below queens. Then the 6 comes on the turn. We just bet small, and because if we just jam on him right here, he's making that embarrassment call where it's like, I bet the flop, then I got check raised. If I fold here, I look like an idiot. Like, players will think that, so he makes the embarrassment call. When I bet this such small amount and don't just put him all in, it kind of looks like I'm bluffing. It's kind of look like I'm holding back some chips so that in case I'm no good with my bluff, I can fold, right? So it's kind of like a player, it's the battle of who's presenting lowest self-esteem here. Like he's embarrassed, I'm bad bluffing, you know what I'm saying? But I just have the world here, so I'm trying to get him to jam. And he jams, and I pretty much snap called this in real time, and he just turned over pocket jacks, which makes a lot of sense. Not in this actual scenario, but it makes a lot of sense when you think about inexperienced players and the fact that they can't get away from jacks. We basically just walked him down the line. He made a bad bet on the flop, so we made a bad raise on the flop. Then he made a bad call on the flop. And then the turn comes off, and we make a bad bluff on the turn where we're actually value betting. And then he makes a bad jam because this guy doesn't have anything. My jacks are good, and I'm going to look really cool when he has a ace-9, you know? And then I just snap him off, and oh, shit, he had ace-queen. Yeah, and it's because we kept our range wide by not 3-betting out of the small blind. That's how we got all the money. If we 3-bet and he jams pre-flop, I ain't calling because he's out of first position, you know? So this is a well-played hand, I think. Let's see. Another ace-queen. This one's a fun one. So we see a limp in second position. It's kind of goofy. Like, I don't know why you do that here. So I went ahead and made the standard open, which would have been 2 blinds at this point. I made it 3 because we had a limper. Poker's poker. We do the same things all the time. Player on the button calls. This player had been creative, let's say. And this player calls. Now, what is this range here? This is a pair. And it's a pair like 7s and lower. It's probably even worse. But this is never like 9s or better, right? Those hands just absolutely open. So we're basically just dodging a set here, and this range is wide open, so we don't know. But we know what we're up against here. Flop comes off Jack 10 Jack, so this shouldn't have improved this player. And like I said, I think the pair was super low, like 5s or something. So I don't know if he's gonna hero in here, man, if we bluff. So we're not really worried about him. I am concerned about this player. And my ace-queen stands up a lot. We do have a gut shot. We have a backdoor decent flush draw, not great. We have backdoor, you know, straight draws. So we see a check here, and I just decided to go ahead and check because the hand does have strength, and it is a multi-way pot, and I think betting here just looks too much like bullshit. When we check, we can actually have ace-jack. So that's what we're trying to do here, is represent that if the hand seems like nobody else has a jack, we can represent the jack and steal. This player bets 5.73. I remember he did it very quickly, and this is half of the pot, and this is what I'm saying. This is not standard. Betting half the pot here, in what world are you doing this with a jack, sir? I don't understand. In what world do you have king-jack, and you bet here? Like half pot. If you did, you would try to make it look like you were a bad player and you were just betting super small on the flop, or you would bet super big to make it look like more bullshit. This is a bet that looks like bullshit to an experienced player because it doesn't accomplish anything. You know what I'm saying? What can call you? If you have a jack here, think about the fact that you have to get called. You're not protecting against a flush draw. So you're saying you have 10 jack exactly, and you're trying to get value? I don't think so, bro. There's just not enough combinations of that in the deck. There's only about 8 left, so uh, eat shit. I don't believe this. The player with the very small pair goes ahead and folds, and it comes back to us. And this is a spot where we don't check raise, because if you had pocket nines here, and you just got check raised by a very aggressive player with a big stack. I mean, remember, we're the chip leader here, pretty much of the whole tournament at this point. It's early, but it's midway through. But if you saw the raise and then a check raise on this flop from a guy with all the chips who's making all these moves, do you really think he's got a jack? No. It looks like a move versus your move. So now we're getting into a leveling war, right? So the move here is just to call, let the turn come off, and see what develops. He may have a jack. We haven't 100% determined it yet, but I think in game I said that's bullshit. So the turn comes off a 6. We check, and he checks back. This is exactly what would happen if he thought we had a jack. And if we had a jack and we're a poor player, this is how we would have played it. Then the river comes off, and we make the nice size value bet. If we had a jack, this is what we would do. He took a long time, then he folded. I think we got him off at 10, honestly. I think he had a hand like king 10 or even ace 10, and we got him off it. It took him a long time to fold, but this is one where we don't have the hand, but the hand that we're representing makes sense the way we played it. So I like this one. It's a thinker. It's a very well-educated hand. Let's go on to the next one. Pocket J's. See a raise here, 2.5 standard. I decided not to re-raise just because it was a weird scenario with this player having 25 big blinds. I don't want to race for that much, but he's raising out of an early position. I don't want to fold. So I kind of was like, whatever. And my problem is that if I re-raised, this player can just call off very wide. And there is a wrinkle here that comes up. This player now goes all in on the button. And this is a good spot for him to do with a lot of hands. He only has 5.5 blinds. He was dead last in the tournament. And at this point, if he doesn't get called, it's awesome for him. But if he gets called once, he more than triples up versus one player. So he can go super wide here. In game, I didn't think he was super wide, but it doesn't matter. He doesn't have enough chips for him to be a factor. Now, this is where it gets interesting. It goes back to this player, and he jams. And this wasn't so much a soul read as it seemed like it was. What this was it came down to, in the video, that I had too many chips to want to race. Like, if you see how many chips this actually is, we're at 400K. We're at like 2 tables left. We're actually less than 2 tables. So we're getting down to the final table, and I'm somewhere near the top. I'm like 3rd or 4th in chips at this point. And this is just too many chips to play for, even with jacks. Because what's the best case scenario? Ace king, right? He's not doing this with ace queen offsuit. It's just not happening. Ace queen suited, possibly, yeah. But that's the same result for us. We're up against 2 overcards. You know what I'm saying? I guess ace queen can do it with his stack size. He had about 25 blinds, right? So yeah, so he can absolutely have ace queen and also ace king. He's never having ace jack. That's just no fucking way. He would have just called that, if anything, and then I jam and he folds. But when he makes the rejam, I said in game, you know what? I don't know what's going on here, but I feel like I have to fold. It sucks, but I feel like there's better spots, and my skill will carry me through. I don't need to take this big gamble. This isn't like a game breaker where I can race ace king with somebody for half my stack midway through a tournament and vault into the chip lead and use those chips as we get down to the bubble, you know what I'm saying? To like build and build and build and build and build. No, we're already past that point. At this point, we're looking for good spots, and a lot of the chips I'm going to win in a tournament is going to be post-flop play. I'm not trying to race. We're not gambling here. So I just go ahead and fold. And I remember there were some people in chat that when this hand replayed said that it was a mistake. But then we got to see the hands when all the cards came out and I was up against pocket queens. And this is a fun one because, yeah, it's cool that he had queens, but if he had aces or kings or ace queen, like if he had ace queen here and then this was the board run out, everybody would have been, oh, that's awful and you're a sucker. But it's the same result, man. It was just too many chips to risk because we would have been down to 200K if we just lost a race. And we're up against an overpair quite often there, aces, kings, and queens. So I like the fold. It's just one of those Phil Hellmuth spots we called it last night where, yeah, GTO wise, it's a good play to make that call because of the price. But versus the player's actual range of hands that they're on, we're kind of risking too much. Like, even if this player in a live game, if he was to turn over ace king, I think I would still fold. And I would show him the ace jack and just fold because it's just not worth it, you know? Somebody out there really impatient waiting on somebody. That Hornhawk's going to get till the end of this stream, then we're going to have some fun with him. So let's see here. Pocket nines. Pocket nines. Going to min raise here. We get a call out of the small blind and a call of the big blind. 8-3-7. This is pretty much what we want in this scenario, is the good overpair. We didn't get 3-bet. The defenders here are going to have, you know, big pairs a lot, you know, or not big pairs, big cards a lot, you know, king, queen, king, jack, things like that. But king, queen, I think might have 3-bet. There's obviously nothing really good. Hands like suited aces that now make a pair are what we're going to target here. So we go ahead and make a raise, or we just go ahead and bet, and we're betting huge. Okay. All right. So I go ahead and bet big, and the point of this is that the move is to look like we're full of crap. So I think a standard c-bet here of 1/3 pot does not accomplish that. We're trying to play for this guy's whole stack, but I don't have a problem playing for this guy's whole stack. It's one of those ones where if he just flopped 2-pair 8-7, that's just too bad. But there's not a lot of draws because we have the nines, so we're not going to be worried about 9-10. Flush draws are possible, but when we bet this big, we're enticing these players to play badly with one pair. So we see just a call, which if you had a flush draw here, I think you're check raising, even a bet this big, right? So now you're drawing for the wrong amount, and you know, we go to the turn, and I said it in game, if the guy has a 3-man, that's just too bad, but I really feel like we're up against ace-7 or ace-8 a lot here, you know, suited variety. So he checks, we bet pretty damn big again, and this is to entice a jam. He does jam on us, and we snap called it in game, and sure enough, we got shown the ace-7 suited. And it's funny, when I watched back the hand, I was really surprised how quickly I went to that. And the 3 on the turn is probably the best card for us, just because it makes it far less likely he has 2-pair. And if he decided to play ace-3 this way on the flop, it's kind of the worst, right? Like, he can definitely call with the ace-7 there, or ace-8, second pair, but he definitely can't play ace-3 there. It's just too weak. Hands like 3-4 don't do that. 5-6 can do it. You know, a hand like, I mean, I guess 3-4 and 3-5 are really the only ones, but I don't even think 3-5 calls pre-flop, so we're really looking at 8-7 or nothing, and when the board pairs 3s, now we've counterfeited that. So I wasn't really worried about it, but the 1-pair suited ace kind of makes a lot of sense. So it's just an interesting one, and it was a Matt Affleck hand that we saw from a review, where he's like, if you act quickly and, you know, look like you're bluffing, these players just hero you. And it's like, it's true. Bad players would just be like, you ain't got anything, and just call you, and that's, you know, that's not what it's all about. All right, this is one where, this is from the final table, and it's a very well-played hand, even though it is, well, we'll just get to it. So we see a min raise out of first position. This is the first hand of the final table, right? So, yeah, pocket jacks. I have 22 blinds, which puts us in 4th position in chips. Here's the chip leader. This player has, he's in 2nd in chips, right? This player's 3rd, and I'm in 4th. Now, look at all these stacks over here. There's a 4 big blind stack. There's a 9 big blind stack, 1475, 1375. These are all factors. So we're doing good in 4th position, but we're obviously, and we're in a great position because all the big stacks are on our right, but there's still huge ICM implications here, because if one of these players gets knocked out, we make good pay jumps, right? And the pay jumps in this thing were great. It was overlaid by 30%. So proportionally, it was awesome. So do you want to 3-bet jacks here? Because what if I 3-bet the jacks, right, to, I don't know, 5 big blinds, or even probably 5.5 at a final table, right? And it goes back to this guy, and he just jams in my face. Like, what do we do with the jacks? And then we're sitting at 17 or 16.5 blinds when we, when we fold. So I didn't want to do that. This is one of those ones where I wanted to call and see what develops, and it also allows me to keep players with bluffs in, and versus hands. Like, he can have pocket 10s, 9s, 8s. He can open all those, right? He has a lot of chips here, man. He doesn't have to have big pairs. He can also have ace kings, ace queens. So it's a little conservative, but I think I'm a mix here of 3-betting in this exact scenario probably only about 20% of the time, and just calling the rest. Because here's the other thing. If this player goes all in and it folds back to this guy, even with ace king, he's probably not going to rejam, because I've kind of leveraged my chips without putting them in the middle. So he's probably just going to call with like ace queen for sure. He may jam ace king. Some players don't know how to do anything else. But I think the smarter play with ace king is to just call, and then we can jam. And then we actually might get a fold and play for considerably less money versus a much more vulnerable stack. Also, if one of these players jams, now he's going to fold. I think it's very reasonable for me to have jacks and the player who jams to have ace queen, ace king, things like that. So we end up in better race situations because we're playing for less of our total stack and we still remain in the tournament. So I like this call here a lot. Goes back to him. It's about the best flop you can have without having a jack on it. He bets 4 big blinds. This is very non-standard. Your standard c-bet here is going to be about 2.2, or maybe 2.5, 2.7, somewhere in there. This to me just tells me this player is afraid and wants to end the hand. Okay, he in real life he has the actual hand that I don't want him to have, but normally this is a guy with 10s, 9s, 8s, 7s. He can even have the last pair of jacks, and he's doing this to protect his hand, and he put extra in there. He increased the bet, almost doubled it, because he's like, I just want to kill the pot right here. That's it. That's all. That's over. That being said, if I was to jam this, I don't think he's folding, even with pocket 9s. So why don't you do that? Well, because if he is in there with pocket 8s or 9s, he's going to freak out on the turn if a good card comes off, and he's going to bet. And if he has the exact hand that he has, and like a big card comes off, aces or king, an ace or a king, and then he checks, I can then bet for value, and I'm still bluffing. Like, I feel like I'm betting the best hand there, but in the rare instance where he has the hand that he actually has, that king will save me money. So I like just calling here, because if he has a hand I can beat, I don't want to stop him, and there's not that many combinations of hands I can't beat right now. He goes ahead and does that, or I go ahead and call. Turn comes off, he bets 8. At this point, he's just saying, okay, we're going to bet big enough to end the pot or get all the money in right here. I think he's had enough. So what this tells me is also he can have ace king suited, picked up a club draw. So he's not folding now, and I know this. And I think the majority of the time when he does this, I have the best hand. And it's interesting because by just calling, I've kept my range wide open, and there's no way he thinks I'm as strong as jacks. No way. So a player with pocket 10s, pocket 9s, there was somebody in the chat last night who actually said, you jam this flop, he only has pocket 10s. There's no way to determine that yet. Here is where we can determine that. I think many times when we see this betting stream, or this betting line, we're only going to see pocket 10s, 9s, and jacks. I think somebody to have pocket queens or better here is super rare, and it's also a super inexperienced player. Like, this might have been, they might not have been to very many final tables, and they definitely haven't played any much bigger than this, because this buy-in was very low. It was $3. So not the most sophisticated player, and just a weird situation and a bad way to play a good hand, because we gave him every opportunity to have a hand worse than us. I went all in, and the guy had pocket queens, and I think this is one where this hand is weak enough that he's afraid to bet small, but too strong to ever fold. So I think if he had kings here even, and the hand played out, I think on the flop he's going to bet normally. I don't think this 4 big blind bet's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Because he's not doing the play it like aces or kings thing where you just play it like jokers, where you just decide to never fold. These bets are just working the money in a safe fashion, which to me, but also being big enough to scare somebody. Like, I'm not going to call him with ace queen on that flop, right? Or ace jack. But if I do decide to take a card off, if I'm a shitty player, you absolutely just keep betting the same on the turn, because the guy's not going to fold anyway. You want him to jam on you when he has ace queen, ace king, ace jack, pocket eights, pocket nines. So we're kind of both thinking the same thing about each other's hands. And in this exact instance, he just happened to have me pipped. And we tied the world record for the fastest final table appearance. One hand. That's as fast as it can go. So a lot of fun. And but I like the way I played this hand. And I didn't just 3-bet jam, get the money in. Oh, it's a cooler. No, you played bad. If this money all goes in pre-flop, I played bad. Like, if we 3-bet jam, not realizing the stack sizes and payout implications, and then just got it in jacks because I have jacks, then it's like we played badly, and nobody's going to say that. Like, good players only are going to say that's a bad play. 99% of the people that I meet and interact with and all like that, even players in poker, they're not going to realize how bad that is. To 3-bet this, call it off, versus a first position opener who's second in chips when I'm fourth in chips, first hand of the final table, because I had jacks. That's fucking retarded. The only way that happens is if I have kings. If under the gun has aces and I have kings, fine. That's the way that we can 3-bet, get it in, and there's nothing I could do. But pairs lower than that, no, you absolutely can. I would probably play queens this way, same way as I played the jacks. Plus, what if a bad flop comes out? Like, if an ace on the flop comes out and he checks, we can actually bet and take it down. But let's say he does have ace king and we get it in and we lose the race. We just threw away the final table because we had jacks. Did he get lucky? No. He actually has the right price after he raises and we jam. He needs 45%. He's got it. You know what I mean? So I like the way this hand was played. Even though it's a loser, we played it correctly. We give ourselves every opportunity to get the money in a profitable situation. And this is the rare 10% time when we weren't in that situation. But I'm super proud of this one. It was a final table that I busted in 8th on an 8-handed final table, and I was super proud of it last night. I felt so good about how I played this hand. I was smiling till I went to bed. So that's that. Excuse me 1 second, guys. I'm going to... there's a bunch more hands that I had, but I think those are the ones that I just kind of want to go through. Yeah, I think I have some more over here if we want to go over some other hands. You guys can bring them up. I mean, the notable ones I have tagged, so if you remember a hand from yesterday and you want to ask me about it, I'm not going to close Poker Tracker in case you want to go to it. But let's go ahead and do a hand quiz and then see where we're at and see what we want to do. So I see a couple people filtering in. What's up, Dref? Drop. Fish, we said hi. Tinar. Zaleen. All my lurkers. So let's do a hand quiz. Ooh, Faraz Jaka, just an absolute genius. Looks like an Indian version of my dad. Or what is he, Pakistani? So let's see here. So this is a king-queen suited in the small blind versus a raise and a call. So there's a raise and a call. We're in the small blind with king-queen suited. This is a tournament. The stack is 8,000 chips. We have 80 big blinds, so it's pretty early, man. All right, let's check this one out, Faraz. What do you got for us? Oh, hang on. I got to hit the thing here so we can hear it. Faraz, what do you got for us? Oh, hang on. I got to.
Just a $55 tournament online.
Here so we can hear it. Faraz, what do you got for us?
We have an open from low jack to 250. Just a $55 tournament online. We have an open from low jack to 250. Just a $55 tournament online.
I should be able to hear it.
We have an open from low jack to 250.
Let me see if I can hear me here.
Just a $55 tournament online.
I can't hear me here. Oh, I see what's going on.
We have an open from low jack to 250.
I see. Hang on. I think I got it.
Just a $55 tournament online. We have an open from low jack to 250. We have a call on the button. We're sitting with king queen suited in the small blind, 80 big blinds deep. Do you want to call or squeeze it up to 1150 here?
With no information on these players, and it seems fairly early, it's only 5100. This could be the first level, although he said it was online. So it's a $55 online, so we're about 4 or 5 levels in. We have 80 big blinds. Everybody's about the same. Players raising from the low jack. I like a squeeze here. I really do. Even though the button called, usually you'd like to squeeze when it's like low jack opens and cutoff calls. But, I mean, the hand is so strong that I like to squeeze. You can make an argument for calling because I don't think the big blind squeezes much. If the big blind was loose aggressive, I think I would call and then trap for the king queen. But I like a squeeze, and I think 1150 is right about where I would do it.
Both calling and squeezing are fine, but I like calling a little bit better. I think just a lot of our suited Broadways here really benefit from squeezing. We're out of position, so we're going to be at a disadvantage playing 4 ways out of position. So by squeezing, we get it heads up or 3-way instead of 4-way, and we lower the SPR. By lowering the SPR is nice because it
stack to pot ratio, SPR. So when the pot in relation to our stack is more 1-to-1, getting your money in with one pair is a much better idea than when you have a 5-to-1, or 1-to-5 stack to pot ratio where now there's 20 chips in the pot and you have 100. Getting in 100 chips with one pair right there, not a great idea. But if you have 20 chips and there's 20 in the pot, getting in is pretty good. You know what I'm saying? You just don't have enough to do anything else.
Lowers the advantage the in position player has. When someone is in position on you, the deeper the stacks, the more the advantage their position gives them. So it's nice to squeeze and minimize that advantage. We get a call from the first player. Next player folds. Here on the queen 10-8 flop, do you want to check? Do you want to bet 800, bet 1400, or bet 2200?
So it's kind of interesting. I hate that went away. Bring that back.
200.
Oh, God damn it. Faraz, you're screwing up the thing. Okay. So it's interesting because we've basically flopped our best flop. It is a draw-heavy board. The pot's 27-30. The player opened. We 3-bet. He was the original opener. He calls. My really greedy part of me says we could check and go for a check raise, but I doubt that, man, because we took the lead pre-flop. It's not like we were a caller and then we're checking and then check raising. If we had not 3-bet pre-flop, I probably would go for the check raise. But I think we can go ahead and just bet normally. Standard 3-bet here is about, standard 1/3 pot here would be fine for about 900. But we're out of position, and we did have the lead, and we're kind of trying to get the money in at this point. So if we bet 800 and he calls it, right, he has 6,000 left. There's 4,300 in the pot. I guess that's enough. But I think I want to go bigger, but I would probably go like 1,200 because it's still, 1,100. Yeah, 1,100 or 1,000 because it's still a standard kind of thing. We don't overcommit. So like when we get jammed on, we're not folding. But at the same time, it allows our opponent to call with, hands that we beat like ace 10, king 10, pocket jacks, and then we can rip the turn on a lot of safe turns. So I kind of like the bigger bet, and I think I'm just going to go with that of 1,400. 2,200 seems a little too big because if we bet 1,400 at this and we get jammed on, I think we're just always beat. So I think 1,400 is too much. I'm going with 8. I'm going to go against my better instinct.
I went ahead and bet 800 here. I think checking and betting are both fine. I'm doing mostly small betting here. Just can't think of what a big bet accomplishes that a small bet doesn't. And it's nice to kind of be getting a nice cheap price with our hands like ace king, and even to continue betting some hands like jacks for value. And as far as king queen, our opponent does have a lot of ace queens in their range still. And so this is one of our weaker queens. I would for sure be betting ace queen. I'm mixing with king queen And I actually might be a little bit more likely to even bet Queen Jack than King Queen, just because Queen Jack has some nice equity with the straight draws and blocks some of the straights that they may already have. But yeah, either way is fine. I think check or bet here. We get called. Turn is a 7. We can check, bet 1700 or bet 3400.
Okay. Interesting. So the player has 6,000 left, which we have 6,000 left. Um, Typically here, I think we're up against a draw. The player did open, but there should be a lot of draws. So what draws are there that open that the turn has now influenced? Not many, right? Only really, well, I mean, 9, 10, and Jack 9 make a straight. So it's kind of whatever. I think this is one that since we're out of position, uh, we can check for pot control and evaluate there by letting our opponent bet. Are we really looking to get the money in on this turn? Like if I was going bet, 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 and bluffing, I would probably bet somewhere around, yeah, just the number just popped in my head, like 32, 33, something like that, about 2/3 pot, and then jam the river. So if we're up against a draw, that's probably what we want to do. We can be up against sets, but sets are hard to make. Ace Queen is also going to not feel good about their hand if we go bet, 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 because we could easily have kings, aces, tens, any of those hands. Pocket jacks can still play for it all right here. Interesting. Then the 1700 bet is another one, because we can continue betting, controlling the size of the pot, and keep the lead. It's about a third pot. And if we bet 1700 here and the river comes off safe, we can either do the check and let our opponent bluff at us with a busted draw, or if we think they have something they can call with, like pocket jacks, or even like queen jack, we can jam it and get called. So that's a really good option too. But if we bet 1700 here and they jam, are we folding? I don't think so. All right, I'm going to go with pot control and check. This is a tough one.
I really like checking here. Anytime the flop is kind of a borderline bet as far as how good your kicker is, then the turn just turns into even more of a check, because it's just getting too thin for value now. So go ahead and check. And it's also nice to have some queens that you're willing to bet and then check the turn with, right? So yeah, so we're check calling here. River is the king, and we check again. Opponent bets. I don't think we need a quiz here. We're definitely calling, and yep, that's about it.
Snap call. And he won the hand. We didn't get the showdown because there was no show on that, but I think that was one of those spots where we were up against queen jack, so betting the turn wasn't really necessary. Because if we bet 1700 and he has queen jack, is he just going to call? Probably going to jam and take the bluff opportunity, right? So when we check, we give him the bluff opportunity and keep the pot smaller and get to go to the river. Now, obviously, the king is a confidence card, and the opponent can have king 10. The opponent can have ace king. They can kind of have ace jack, but I think that makes more of a move on the flop, so I'm not really worried about that hand. They can definitely have king jack. King jack is definitely a hand they could have. And now when we just check call the turn and we check the river and allow them to bluff into our very, very strong hand now, we snap call. So yeah, I think king jack is probably the most likely hand that the guy had. Probably flopped a shitload of draws and played it reasonably, not overly aggressive, and decided to go for it on the river because of the way we bet. So the problem is when people bet on flops like that and they bet small standard C bet and then they check the turn, pot control is a thing, meaning you don't want to blast all your money in when there's still cards to come. So let's let the board run out, and the other player will tell me what's going on. I don't need to bet to find out where I'm at. I play poker. I know where I'm at. So it's interesting, and I like that I got the check right, because I think pot control is very important here. And like he said, we have the reasonable best hand, but we're very far from the effective nuts. The effective nuts here, I think on the turn, is a set. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's hard to beat a set, right? Two pair, queen 10, yes, that's about the same. But other than that, there's really no hands we're going to have on queen 10, 8, 7 that are effectively the nuts. Like, I know 9, 10 is the nuts and jack 9 is the nuts, but we're not really three betting those pre-flop, right? Unless these players are super loose. So the effective nuts here is a set. But when we have a great hand that's not that strong, but it's probably winning, it's good to pot control. So I like this one, and I love the way Faraz thinks, and I was very happy that we agreed. It doesn't mean right or wrong. It means we agree on this spot in the same philosophy, looking at it the same way, and it just shows me that the way that I'm looking at poker is becoming more correct and more GTO and more professional. Like, you go through all the hands in your head and go, well, why? What is this? What does this bet accomplish here? It's not, I think he has this. It's his range of hands is this. What does this bet accomplish? If I make this bet, what does that tell us about how, when he reacts, what does that tell us about what he has? It's a very multi-level thinking process. And when I'm doing it in game, you guys hear me, I'm talking very fast, and I'm just saying what's going on in my head. And it takes a lot of training and a lot of changing of your perception of how you think to go to that immediately. It's it's like anything else you get good at. You know what I'm saying? You kind of have good reference for it, but the manner in which you think is the problem solving that matters. I don't really like review. I love these hands, but I don't think they apply much to the stakes I'm playing. But Gripst plays very fundamentally sound poker, so you can pretty much apply all his stuff to anything. So I'm gonna do one more of these, man. I like Gripst a lot. If you haven't checked him out, man, check him out. His Twitch channel makes great content.
Hello everyone, Evan Jarvis here for PokerCoaching.com. Today we are reviewing a tournament hand from the $2,500 buy-in WPT Fallsview that I played earlier this year in me. On in. We have pocket.
$2,500 live, by the way, is equivalent to playing 215 and higher online. So it is a good tournament. There will be good players, but there will also be a lot of satellite players. There are spots, and there's a lot of players who just have a lot of money that play these things because it's a WPT. Like, people who jack off the titles, man, it's just dumb. It's like, just win the money. Like, bracelets and whatever don't matter. I think I want to, in my career, I'd like to win one bracelet, but just so that people can know that I'm not fucking around broke. But other than that, there's no real reason to have one. I mean, it's a title. So there's a lot of like guys who just have money and play these things too because it's a WPT. Like, it doesn't even mean anything anymore.
Hit twos on the button and some nice reads on about half of the table at this point. Under the gun, who we don't have a read on, opens for 1,200. A passive splasher calls in mid position, as does Marlin. And now it's on to us on the button. What should you do with pocket deuces? Never loses. Should you fold, call, rebet to 3,000, or squeeze it up to 4,200?
It's a very different situation, obviously, because it's multi-way and our hand isn't as strong. The passive splasher here, I think, is a good note to have because that means he's going to see a lot of flops. This is one of those guys who just has a lot of money. Like, a satellite player isn't even a passive splasher. I don't care how they got here because they're going to play it more conservatively in a thing they satellited into because they're playing way over their head financially. So, unless they're just like a really good player who's got bankroll problems. So he's just calling with pretty much the range of the deck. Marlin is an interesting name to give this guy because a Marlin is a big fish. I don't know if that's what he's saying here, but okay. He didn't define that, but it's kind of a coincidence, right? A Marlin is a big sport fish. So, and the under the gun player we don't have any reads on. He is under the gun, making an open, standard open to 2.2. I'm going to go ahead and just call 100% of the time. If we 3-bet and get 4-bet, we have to fold the deuces, which would suck because we don't get a chance to flop a deuce. So I'm just calling.
In this situation, there really only is one play. That play, calling. Deuces do not have any favorable properties for 3-betting. They don't block our opponent's continuing range. In fact, they unblock it and increase the chances that our opponents have good hands. It's too strong of a hand to fold. This is a hand we want to play multi-way in position and see if we can flop a set. And 3-betting just opens up the door to potentially getting 4-bet by the hands that we want to take a flop against. Aces, kings, queens, ace, king. Calling is far and above the best play in this spot. It basically is the only play with your small pocket pairs in this situation. Small blind calls as well, big blind calls as well. We have ourselves a nice juicy pot coming together, and a even juicier flop comes down. King of spades, 4 of diamonds, deuce of diamonds, giving us bottom set. Little sizzle. Got a 4K continuation bet from the opener and a flat from Marlin. Action is on you. What should you do? Should you fold, call, raise to 10,000, or move all in?
So this is a very interesting spot, and I think it's very easy to play it incorrectly. So the under the gun player is c-betting, right? Passive splasher's out of the way, so we don't get any of his money, which is kind of a shame. But we have bottom set, and here's the thing. What are we beat by? We're beat by other sets right now. There are 2 other combinations of sets, 4s and kings. The under the gun player doesn't have 4s. He can definitely have kings. The caller behind doesn't have kings because he would have 3-bet. So he has possibly 4s. That's it, though. And there's not enough combinations of these hands to warrant, with this much in the pot, just calling. Because there's a problem. What if somebody has diamonds? What if somebody has the ace-3 of diamonds? They have a ton of equity. On a draw-heavy board like this with straight and flush draws, even though they're low, this was a multi-way pot, man. Like, we saw a raise and then a call, and then this guy called. He could call with ace-5 suited of diamonds, or ace-3. He could definitely have the king-queen suited, right? Want to flop, see what's going on. He could even have a hand as, disjointed as, a suited ace-8, something like that. He can also have pocket 9s. And here's the really best part. The player under the gun is still betting, and he bet immediately into a field of 5 other players. He's got something he likes. He's got ace-king. He's got aces. He could have kings, sure, but are we really worried about that? Like, are we trying to fold sets? If you never fold a set in your life, you're probably going to do really well. I think I've folded sets. Playing live, it happens quite a bit more because players are tighter with their opening range. But playing online, I don't fold sets at all unless the board runs out like all flushes, all one suit. Then it's just we're just calling for a chop, right? It's just not a good play. So if we make it 10,000, right? Now let's look. We have 26.8 over here, right? If we make it 10,000, it's only 6,000 more for these players to call. So we're pricing in the flush draw. So as crazy as it might seem, I think the move is to jam here because we're jamming 26-8 in. I don't think ace-king is folding because they think we might have just a flush draw. I know pocket aces isn't folding, especially if they hold the ace of diamonds. If they hold the ace of diamonds, it's a little scarier for them because we have more sets. But a lot of players overplay one pair, and a guy on the button with king-queen might just do that. They don't know how good we are. I mean, granted, this is Gript sitting in the seat, so people know him, but I think the move here is just a jam. I think that's all you can do. I'm interested to hear if I'm wrong and what he says.
With the pot size being as large as it is, I like a couple of plays here. Moving all in here is about a pot size bet, and we will likely get called by aces, ace-king, maybe even king-queen. Not necessarily king-queen, but if we just chip it in here, our opponents may put us on, the ace-3 of diamonds, ace-5 of diamonds, and be more apt to make a hero call with a top pair type hand. And because of the size of the stacks, it's actually reasonable for us to take the sizing of all in. Raising at 10,000, I think, looks much too strong here. It gives our opponents a fine price to peel as well with draws, and just doesn't really accomplish what we want to. And then folding is out of the question. Our hand's too strong, but calling is an option I also like because when we call, we have a pot size bet remaining. We can represent a weaker hand than we have, and if the turn is a brick, our opponents are again more likely to overplay a pair of kings because we could easily have a flush draw here. So in the moment I went for the call, But I'm also very much on board with just taking the large sizing of moving all in here, expecting to get snap called by aces, ace king, and maybe even king queen, as well as pair and diamond draws, which we have in very bad shape, because that's what people do in tournaments. They run the cards when they have top pair. Sets are one of the places we're going to make a lot of money versus those players. Turn is not the best for us. 6 of diamonds, completes 5-3, and completes diamonds as well. Checks to us. Actions on you. What should you do? Should you check, bet 8,000, or go all in?
So this is an interesting scenario because we got the top score with going all in. I think this is one of those where retroactively Gripst wishes he had just gone all in on the flop. The two moves are the same for all the reasons he's saying, calling and raising, because we're never going to fold this set unless the absolute worst card comes off for us on the turn. Unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. The 6 of diamonds is the nut worst card because 3-5 is here, diamonds are here. Ace, if the ace of diamonds hits the turn, it's kind of not bad for us because then we only lose to 3-5. They may fold to a jam because I'm still jamming the ace of diamonds on the turn. And ace king definitely calls us, especially holding the king of diamonds. So the 6 of diamonds is the nut worst card. There's one card in the deck I didn't want to see. That's it. So this kind of sucks now. Like, do we just ship it? This player is very likely to have a flush in this scenario. Like, what is he calling with? Right? Like, because we didn't ship the flop, I think we're just checking now. Because he's going to have us beat a lot. This player's going to have ace king or aces. Or if he had aces, he would have jammed. But he's going to have ace king a lot. He's going to call with the ace king. This player, I think, a lot of times either has a flush or a set of fours. I kind of really think that. Like, I don't know why, but it kind of makes sense to me, and gut feelings aren't exactly gut feelings. What they are is a collection of knowledge that you have that's kind of making a back of your head. There's something tapping you going, hey, there's a thing here that's bad. So I think I'm going to check and pray that the board pairs and then never fold. And if another diamond doesn't come off, it's kind of going to depend on the bet. But if another diamond comes off, I can just escape this hand and maybe I just dodged getting set over set. But yeah, this one feels really bad, man. I really prefer the jam on the flop because 5-3 in diamonds, if they call us on the flop, man, good for you. 5-3 is incorrect to call, but the suited ace 3 is correct. And we're just crushing against that, 2/3 of the time. So I think we have to check now. We're not giving up, but we're pot controlling with a set, which is rare. But this is the nut worst card. So let's see what happens.
Now, while flush has become possible, our opponents have 2 diamonds in their hands. There's a decent chance they would bet.
My problem also is there's going to be a lot of sets here. Like there's going to be sets of 4s here in this guy's hand. Like that's really my issue. But not if we jam the flop and he rolls over a set of 4s, okie dokie. But I think when he just calls this open, I think it's because he feels like this guy has ace king and nobody behind me is going to have anything, and I'm going to kind of wait for the flush draw to jam, and then I'm going to get all the money in with my set of 4s. Like we kind of allowed that to happen. Yeah, so I mean, I think Gripst is going to win this hand now, but I kind of think in play, I don't think I'm ever just calling on that flop. There were still 2 players behind. I'm kind of disagreeing with Gripst on this one. It's a philosophy kind of thing. He's right in actual live play. The players aren't as good, and the ranges are much tighter. But I think for that same reason, we like jamming because, small blind and big blind are here, man. They can have 3-5, and if they called, because they were getting 7-1, then we let them draw with 3-5 offsuit or 3-5 of spades or something. Yeah, I kind of don't agree with this one. I think we kind of put ourselves in the meat grinder here. That being said, it is just a different philosophy, and everything he said about calling on the flop was correct. So let's see what he says.
Those flushes on the turn, so they don't have all the flushes. But also, if our opponents have king, queen, ace, king, ace, ace with 1 diamond, they have not made their flush yet. But if we check, we give them a free chance to improve to the best hand. We have a pot size bet remaining. we have what is going to be the best hand the majority of the time. And that is a very significant pot out there relative to our stack size. It's important that we do what we can to protect our equity, give ourselves the best chance to take this pot down. I like an 8,000 chip bet. Gives us the chance to get looked up by King Queen. Doesn't quite give the right price to a flush draw, although it is close. And that's what we do here. All in also, I think it looks a little bit stronger. If we're going to go all in, we should probably do it before the diamonds come in. But this size, it gives us a better chance of getting called by a king. Under the gun folds without much thought. Marlin takes a very long time and then folds, letting us know that he did indeed have king, queen, but without a diamond. If we knew both our opponents didn't have a diamond, yes, we can check to get more value from the king on the river. But also, if a diamond comes off on the river, we don't get extra value from those hands. So I picked a size that I thought a king might call, and were it not a diamond on the turn, we probably would have got a lot more action. But you can't always get the perfect situations. All you can do is make the most of the situations that you are dealt. So that's why we made that bet. We end up taking the pot down and increasing our stack nicely, as you usually do when you flop a set. That's going to wrap it up for this quiz. Evan Jarvis for PokerCoaching.com. Hope you learned a thing or two.
I think in
I
this
look forward to
specific
seeing you
situation.
the next one.
Hang on, let me mute this here. I think in this specific situation, it worked, but I really think the king queen on the flop that called pre-flop when there was an open, a call, and then he just called, right? So maybe Marlin was correct. Maybe Marlin is a fish. The king queen on the flop is what we're going after, right? So this guy made a blind c bet, meaning he just bet c bet into fucking 6 players because he always c bets. Like he's a 100% c bet thing, which is a thing, right? So this player calls it. If we just jam this flop, the guy's going to go, well, I think you got a flush draw. I call. And we're going to have him drawing dead without a diamond in his hand. You know, unless it comes off king, king, or king, queen. So, or 4 king. So, yeah, I really think the mistake here was not jamming the flop. I do think you have a high percentage of getting doubled when you jam the flop. Calling on the flop didn't accomplish anything, in my opinion. Now, in this very specific situation, our hand remained strong, even though the board was atrocious. But that 6 also killed our action, right? The guy called on the flop, right? So he thought his hand was good enough at that point, and when we jam behind, we just look like we're full of shit. We look like we're jamming draws. We look like we're jamming king queen as well, or worse kings like king jack, because it looks like this guy could be making a bullshit bet if he was, if other players knew him to be aggressive, but I didn't. Then his 100% c bet range doesn't play on their head like it does mine, because I don't know it's 100%. And this player calling, he's making a hero call. And this fact that he said the guy took a long time to fold means that he put us on a flush. He's not thinking sets because he can't play a set that way. But yeah, he put us on a flush, man. So the real mistake here, I think, was not jamming the flop. That being said, it is a thing. Like, if the board doesn't come off the nut worst card, then I love the call on the flop, because we're never folding the set. When the turn comes off like a black 10, this player is going to check. We're going to bet that 8,000. He's going to call. The river comes off. We're not really worried about a flush draw, because he would have check jammed the turn with a flush at this point, or with a flush draw at this point. So when the river comes off, even if it's a diamond, we're now going to be committed, with 14K left and 31 in the pot. So we're just going to jam, and the king queen has to call. This is just the nut worst scenario. So I see where Grips is coming from. I'm more on board with the flop call, but online, never. I would absolutely just jam flop and get paid off by one pair of hands, or be up against the flush draw, who has 8 outs twice. And on the turn, if he doesn't make it, and the board doesn't pair, now he has 7 outs, because he can't hit the second card. Like, he can't hit the king of diamonds if I get it in, and if the turn comes off 7 of clubs, he can't hit the 7 of diamonds because I make a full house. So I think that's where it's at online. Live, different dynamic. All that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I got to go get my blood drawn. I donate blood every few months. We'll talk about it when I get back. I am playing today, probably around 4 o'clock, maybe a little earlier, depending on how I feel. I got to get my blood sugar back up after I donate, so I want to make sure I'm sharp. Maybe it's a cash game day, but I really want to play tournaments because I'm playing. Wow, Courtney's sleeping. Because I really want to, keep playing when I'm playing good. So, Jesus. So, I'm gonna end the stream. I'm gonna host Grips. So the guy who just did this quiz is streaming right now. So I'll see you guys later. Have a great day, and I'll be back later with something. But don't forget, every morning, 11:30 a.m. We're gonna do the wake up with me things. I appreciate you guys coming out, even if there wasn't much chat. It's cool because I just kind of talk to myself in the mornings. I like that. Don't forget to check out the YouTube. There's a YouTube link on the page now. I'm going to be putting out a lot more content there, but there is some edited content already. There's going to be vlogs. There's going to be more stuff about me, fun stuff. I'm even thinking about posting old vlogs because they were fun, and you get to see, my history before my change into who I am now. So I think it's kind of fun. Yeah, so a lot of good stuff. Twitter, check it all out, and we'll see you guys later, man. Have a good day.